Welcome to Crisis in Contact Center Management. I have been looking forward to having this conversation. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Amos Tanuma. I am a customer service evangelist. I too have run contact centers for many years, and I want to introduce Brian, co-founder of Fit Talent. Brian, introduce yourself to the folks.
As you said, co-founder, Fifth Talent, meaningful work champion. And that sounds kind of like a weird thing. Ultimately, there's a lot of good news, even though we're going to start with the bad news today. There's a lot of great things you can do on the people side. Process and technology, a lot has been done there. And your big opportunity now in customer service and contact center management is on the people side.
I ran a really large contact center circa 2017. I had assumed that in those 7 years, all the problems have now been solved and call center agents love their jobs. It's the best job in the world and things are fantastic and customers are all kinds of happy. So tell me what I just said is true.
Unfortunately, that is not the case. This is a workshop for contact center leaders. It's a very challenging job. I've talked to well over 100 in the past couple of years. And through the research that we've done, through listening to what contact center leaders are faced with, we put ourselves in your shoes and solve these problems because, quite honestly, most people don't understand this industry. In my past, prior to Fifth Talent, I spent a lot of time in the industry, including on the outsourcing side. So seeing many clients, many operations, and many challenges along the way.
So let's dive in.
We're going to dive in with the problem. Anything that you're trying to change or make better, it's good to understand or admit there's a problem. A lot of people don't want to admit it, but we're at a 17-year low for customer experience. 49% of people said it's getting worse year over year. That doesn't mean 51% means it's better. Most people typically would be there's no change. That's a pretty striking figure, along with 41% of people say they do not trust the brands they interact with.
Wow.
And how many times do we have our own customer satisfaction scores or net promoter score? Hey, we're great. We're really high. When 41% says they just don't trust you, that's a pretty alarming figure.
Yikes.
Then we move on to the agent. How's the agent doing in all of this? 8% attrition worldwide for internal centers. It's a lot worse for outsourced centers, and we'll get into that a little bit. But that's a pretty high number. And it's even typically worse in certain countries, like the United States. Gallup not only track engagement, but now this idea of quiet quitting. They believe worldwide from their latest research that 59% of employees are quiet quitting. And we know agents even worse. Unfortunately, a lot of things are piling up right now. This impacts the profitability. What we're seeing is what we call the great termination of leaders. Because things aren't getting better and the customers are what drive your revenue. This hits the bottom line. And we are seeing many contact center leaders being terminated.
Yikes. With this sobering place in mind, all the attention seems to be about technology. And you're going to get into the outsourcers, for example. But there is no bigger champion. I don't hear any of this from the outsourcers. They are all in on AI. So let's talk about the outsourcers. And the outsourcers are critical because they have a larger share of voice in this. These are the professional contact center people, right? Most people in the industry, you sell a thing and you happen to have a call center. These guys do this thing for a living. We are professional call center, contact center runners. So how are things going on there? Because I'm not hearing what you just said from them. I'm hearing AI. What's going on there? Let's start with what's going on in that space.
There's a crisis in contact center outsourcing.
Oh, okay.
And so it's even worse for the outsourcers. Historically, turnover in outsourced centers is higher. When you have high turnover and then people are like, oh, well, it's all going away and it's going to be no problem. No, it's still a problem. and you're probably dealing with double digits in monthly attrition. We've talked to many clients, and they're saying overall, they're unhappy with their outsourcers, and they're planning to either consolidate or just replace at least one of their outsourcers. So that's a pretty bad situation, and that's what people are dealing with is high churn. I've been in that outsourcing industry for many years, and I've never seen client churn like it is now.
Yikes.
A lot of the public outsourcers, the investor side, evaluated AI has come along and now your business is going to be replaced. So they're dealing with that. And from clients thinking, well, maybe we don't need as many outsourcers. There is an impact AI has made, but I would largely argue it's making self-service better so that people don't have to actually end up calling somebody when they want self-service. It's a pretty bold statement, but from the things that we have seen, we believe that in the next 5 years, possibly 50% of the large to medium BPO contact center outsourcing brands are going to no longer exist.
Yikes.
And mostly that will probably be through consolidation. I'm losing customers, I'm losing money, I'll acquire customers by acquiring companies, or I'm going to sell so that I can cash out.
Let's focus on the agent or internal employee experience, for example. You shared that the average good contact center replaces 2/3 of its people every year. And then you said if you're an outsourcer, it's worse. You replace everybody, at least everybody every year, right? I read the brochure of the outsourcers, and I've sat in on the pitch.
Oh, yeah.
And their pitch is quite simple. You are bad at this. You are bad at the customer experience, the employee experience, because you are a manufacturing company, right? I do this for a living. My entire existence is just making people happy. And you're saying it ain't so. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
In our latest report, the Crisis in Contact Center Management, I have a word for that. That is the contact center outsourcing fallacy. Hey, we are experts. We improve customer experience. We have a better operation. We have a better employee experience. We drive performance, and efficiencies. We drive revenue for you, and we really reduce the costs. And clients don't believe that. Not to say that no one's ever done that. I used to have a boss in BPO and sales that said, well, everybody has one good program or they shouldn't even be operating. You see these case studies of the one good program, but how do I know that's going to work for me? Unfortunately, through my own experience in selling outsourced services and marketing them, we had a client say, I went on to Glassdoor and you said your employee experience was so good and how you take care of your employees. You're worse than the other competitors in this bid. And it's like, huh. And let me go back and let me get two sources, Indeed and Glassdoor, and well-known BPOs from the largest to mid-size. And how are they doing? Here's the results. It's almost all red. No one's doing well. And how often do you hear, oh, we have a great employee satisfaction score? Take a look there. Ultimately, the employee experience, and through our research, it's even worse when we assess outsourcers compared to internal centers.
Contact center leaders like me who are listening to you are going, okay, so it's clear that the silver bullet, I am bad at this, sounds like the industry that's purported to be better at this is worse than I am. That's not the answer. So I'd love for you to widen out now. So I think beyond the outsourcers, contact center leaders, people whose job it is to lead these organizations, right? What have you learned about what challenges they're facing and what they're being asked to do?
I've run operations before, and it is really difficult. Most people who've never done that don't understand all the challenges that you face just getting a person in a seat to take a call, let alone that it's going to be a good call with the customer. As you can see, what are some of the top priorities? Taking care of the customer and then retaining agents. is a big, big thing, because if you can't retain agents, it's hard to have a solid foundation to start to do other things. Also, I'd say more than ever, all the tech integration, the AI, what's all the impact? How can technology help? Technology's come an amazingly long way in the past couple decades in this industry, but a lot of people keep looking to technology for what else can it do and how can it reduce costs. Interestingly enough, down pretty low, you see reducing costs.
Yep.
My conversations, I see that as their number one pressure that they have.
That's right.
It's like, I got to be good, but I got to at least be as good as I am today in lower costs.
As someone who's sat in that seat, and it's someone who talks to these folks on a day-to-day basis, it is clear priority number 1, 2, and 3 is how can you do this thing more efficiently? Of course, everyone wants whatever the heck a frictionless CX is, but above all else, let's reduce cost. And even the conversation about talent is about cost. It comes from the place of like, it's just expensive to train and do all of that. Given that, talk a little bit about, as you talk to contact center leaders, and many of those who are watching this, what do they tell you? So we are clear, your bosses tells you to go turn water into wine, go save money and keep all these customers happy.
Yep.
How have they managed their way through this?
It's funny because on this second list in the gray, you see towards the bottom, how do I effectively report to my executives? From what I understand and what I've seen and what I have heard from contact center leaders, that is actually a bigger challenge. And one of the reasons why is executives are out of alignment with customers, with agents, and with contact center leaders. To take the first one, customers, this idea, we don't really need humans taking care of customers anymore. It's just a bad outlook, because the marketing background in me is you don't determine what your customers want. What you need to do is understand what they want and how can you best meet their needs.
I completely agree with that. And to the point of, even when you're going to use technology, it's with the humility that customers want a human. So I need to be very careful here. My standard is it has to be objectively superior to human, or you don't put it in front of them. And I use the ATM example. If I need $20, it's just a superior experience to deal with the ATM. But you know what else you can do with the ATM? You can make deposits, you can do all that. So I think that is an excellent point of, just because it's good for you and you think you can just force customers to adopt it. I think that's a mistake. This isn't an anti-technology conversation. It's that you have to remember what they want, and you can give them something a little bit different, but it can't be the opposite of what I want.
Correct. And most customers, if you ask them, most will say, I want both self-service and human service, and I decide when I want each one. From our research, typically a customer wants to talk to a human being when it's high urgency, high impact, or financial impact. If they have high complexity, like there's no way I'm going to be able to get through this with self-service because there's unique things going on. And when there's high dissatisfaction, I want to talk to a person to understand why, and can I get an apology and all of those other things. This company, Ideal Dialogue, came up with information that said, wow, what customers really want is a human-to-human conversation with an agent. And that will supersede the customer-agent relationship or customer-company relationship, because it's so stinted. Their best interactions are human-to-human. And I feel like the agent was my advocate, my agent back to the company. They were sitting with me and solving my problem, and they cared. They cared about me as a human, not just as a customer. That is what's interesting from the customer side. But what the agent wants is the same thing. This is where this idea and concept of meaningful work comes in. When you do agent focus groups and other surveys, that is what they say is the best part of their job, is making a difference for customers and having that interaction and truly making a difference for them as a person. That's what they want. That's the primary driver for motivation. And the primary negative driver is this thing called grind. And that is all of the things that prevent you from authentically helping that human customer on that human level. And if that is too high, then you're going to get the quiet quitting, the disengagement, poor performance, and probably turnover. That explains what the customer and the agent want. They want the same thing. So the executive,
the guys and gals in the suits in the corner office, they too want the same thing. Tell me that, Brian.
Only 60% of executives say that customer service impacts customer loyalty. 40% say no, but really, what's going on in the executive's mind? There is some good news in this report from NTT. They did discover that executives believe that the customer experience and the employee experience are number one, number two problems right now, especially when it comes to contact center. But they also say the number one solution is AI.
Yay.
How did you determine that that's what the agent and customer want, is more AI? You know, I got a fever and the other solution is AI.
I have a hypothesis grounded in working with these folks on a daily basis. If you gave all of them truth serum, they would really say, Brian, I hear you. Why bother investing in this human service then? I'm just going to automate all of it.
Take the cost out.
Brian, we are here to make money.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is quite logical. And this depresses me a little because what I think you've just done is brick by brick exposed the foundations of faulty beliefs. Stop at the executive level. I think we found our culprit here. A profane percentage of them, first of all, believe customer service has nothing to do with the loyalty of the customer. So once I believe that this thing has nothing, I'm going to suspect those guys think it's price and it's all of these other things like, service schmervis.
Correct.
That's the first faulty belief. Well then, my next then belief is I have to just do this well enough. Like it's not.
Yeah, correct.
I think it's those two things that actually partially explains a lot of what has happened over this last 20 years.
Yes. I would agree. And it's one of those things that's been hiding in plain sight. Only 60% believe customer service makes an impact on customer loyalty and retention. What do contact center leaders think? And, I have the stat there. 98% of them think it does. From the same study, I think it was 99% of customers say it does.
Correct. Of course it does.
Are we starting to dehumanize customer service? What is the cost of that? And ultimately, AI can do a lot of things, but there's a lot of things it can't do.
I just wanted to chime in and say that I just want to put a final point on it for contact center leaders who are sort of listening to this. It's like, you've got this disconnect. Your leadership has this faulty assumptions, which you just did. And their default starts from, I am going to put every penny I have into AI because I'm just going to automate the heck out of this thing. The humans are like, yeah, maybe level 2 or level 3. That. So I would love your perspective now on, well, let's break down that wall. This AI and agent, we're not saying it's one or the other, but how do you think about the place for both?
So AI has great capabilities. In some other research we cite in that report, talks about what can AI do that's different than a human.
Right.
That a human can't really do, in a sense. And it's quick processing. Yeah. There's no doubt. And then this idea of, well, they're 24/7.
I am starting to see why the execs love AI. Doesn't complain, no PTO, no benefits, no healthcare.
Yeah, until they become self-aware.
Right. But go ahead. Go ahead.
When you take a look at self-service, wow, what a great addition AI is. Because self-service is awful. You can go see what the opt-out rate from self-service and all of that. It's not good. And AI needs to help there. But as you say, how do you really help the human customer through that process? And AI has an amazing ability that I don't hear, I think, enough people talking about, is AI can work on eliminating the problem for why customer needs to contact you.
Right.
So it has these great capabilities to help the agent in access to information and providing recommendations. Those are all really helpful things so that the agent is successful with the customer.
Yes.
But if you have AI that's just going to tell the agent what to do step by step, no, it doesn't work well. And the human customer on the other end of the line, or text or chat or whatever it might be, it's like, this is weird. This is not normal, and I'm not having that human to human conversation that I want. AI is a great tool, but it can't do everything. It can't have that human to human conversation that we have been talking about, that the customer wants. What's even more important with that is this idea of the agent can have an emotional impact in the conversations. That's really important for customer behavior because they make decisions based upon emotions. This idea of, we do care about you, customer, that is where the human comes in and can really make that impact. Also, it's hard for AI to say, hey, choose this product or that product because when you use it, or I've used it, it's this human perspective that people will trust more a human's experience than an AI's experience. And then fourth is something we'll get into in the next session, but the customer says, the best interactions I have, not only is my problem solved, I felt that the agent benefited from that interaction because I made a connection with them. And that is where meaningful work comes into play. Once again, not only does the agent want it, the customer wants it.
I want to double click into a few areas before we run out of time and wrap here. One is, go back to the customer. I think another faulty belief, and it's probably the name of this workshop, Faulty Beliefs, has been that the customer and the service agent are in conflict. And, you see contact center leaders are working overtime to align the agents. Oh, you must do this for the customer. The customer does not want to talk to you. Yeah. So you need to efficiently shove them off the phone as quickly as possible. Yeah. I think we're seeing some of that, when in fact, it sounds like that's just the executive talking. That's not the customer.
Yep. And I have heard, hey, the research says that customers don't like talking to agents, so we're going to replace the agent because that's what they want. And it's like, no. The problem is we are having bad interactions between customers and agents, and it's usually the company's fault. Because the agent is like, I love helping customers. I just wish my company would let me do it.
Thinking the agent is the problem is like complaining to the guy who runs the hot dog stand that your team is losing. Like that's not the guy. That's not the person at all. You're so right that we've set up a place where the executives run the company, period, full stop. And they have these sets of faulty beliefs about service, about what customers want.
Yeah.
And they institute that inside of your contact center. If you are a contact center leader today, you are at the mercy of what that belief is. So I think, which then leads me to, you've got the wrong assumption that the agent and the customer wants different things. Brian just put that to bed. The agent and the customer, if you took the headset off that agent and worse, the policy manual away from that agent, if you took all of those things off, they and the customer are on the same page. And I suspect you, this contact center leader, are also all aligned about what should be happening here. So we've got that piece there. And now you've got, on the other hand here, the executive who just believes the answer, service doesn't really impact customer loyalty. We need to automate everything. We should automate it first, ask questions later, use AI. And now we get to this place. And I know you're probably going to leave us in a cliffhanger now. Because it seems to me then that the only question I now then have for you, customer wants a human. The human wants to help the customer so bad. Some of them, it's their life's work, it's their mission, it's how they're sort of wired.
Yeah.
What in the world is in the way? It seems like we have a happy marriage here. Like, what is in the way?
Yeah. And that is what we're going to get into in these other workshops, is what's the opportunity and then what's the challenge. The preview there is this thing called grind, preventing the agent from authentically serving the customer. But we're also going to address what the contact center leader's source of grind is, and it's the executive. The last one will be about the solution. How do you address that? And we have ways to address that, and you can be successful. If you want to move on to the next workshop, part 2, we're going to talk about the good stuff. What is the opportunity? This idea of meaningful work and how that drives the agent to love their job. And that's helping customers. Not only is that a good thing for the agent, because they stay and they'll be engaged on their own through their own motivation and be high performers. But what they'll also do is make that human-to-human connection with the customer. And when they do that, that impacts the emotion of the customer and what is considered emotional satisfaction, which actually drives customer behavior, because rational satisfaction doesn't. We'll talk about that in the next session.
Well, I can't wait for the next session that we're going to do. You don't have to wait, though. So if you're ready, just click on over to part 2. Brian, good to see you. Look forward to our next conversation.
Yeah. Thanks, Amos. See you in the next conversation.